Bob Gronenthal, owner of Island Tech Services. As always, it's a pleasure to sit down with you.
Thanks, Jeff. Pleasure is always with you too.
Let's start with some background about you. You were a fire rescue dispatcher and former chief of the Patchogue Ambulance Corps. What inspired you 26 years ago to start your own technology solutions company to serve the first responder community and other industries?
Yeah, so the industry was interesting when I first joined. It was all volunteer, still is today. But technology wasn't part of our response plan. Everything was very, very paper driven, and I just saw a need. There was a lot of evolution going on. Verizon had just started putting out this new technology called 1xRTT, which wound up becoming 3G, and so mobility and being in the field itself and having technology in the field was really at the cusp and started evolving. And of course, we're all butting up against Y2K. So,
Sure.
that just started it, and there really was a need, and it was a brother and sisterhood of all the people in the service that I was working with that just kept saying, "Hey, this is a good thing, and we need it." And through my employment as a dispatcher, I got to see it. And then being in the field, and it really was revolutionary at the time to come through, which is now very, very mainstream when you see
Sure.
these cars and ambulances carrying tablets and computers and things in their cars. But early on, that wasn't the case.
Yeah. And you've, in previous conversations, you've talked about the fact that you've always been pretty tech oriented. And it's actually extraordinary to think about what we take for granted now, and that it was not that way at all not so long ago. Tell us about Island Tech Services and its mission.
Yeah, so Island Tech started out as a technology company, hence the name, and Island being on Long Island. And so what we were beginning to do was to sell computer networks. Most of the firehouses and ambulance companies here on Long Island didn't have computer networks and networking itself. So that's where we started, and we literally wired firehouses and ambulance companies here on Long Island, and then started putting in servers, PCs, workstations. That wound up evolving into computers in cars and the ambulances. And we've continued to grow that now as a national brand across the country, serving first responders throughout the entire country itself, primarily up here in the Northeast. And as we evolved with our organization, one of the fun things we do is we build police cars, and nobody really thinks about that, about the patrol car driving down the street, but how it's actually built. Most people think it comes directly from Ford or Chevrolet, and it's the exact opposite. It is just a plain stripped down car, and we add the lights and the sirens and the technology. And we continue to stay in the technology industry itself, doing the same thing we did 26 years ago. So we're still out doing servers and operating a full help desk for all of our IT customers. Then we're building cars and putting mobility and technology out into the field in every aspect, from in-car video systems, body camera systems, to when you're driving on a bus and you're getting public Wi-Fi on a bus. Those are the kinds of projects.
That's all the stuff.
Yeah. That's all the things that we do today.
Sure. I had the privilege of visiting your operations, and it was a real treat when you took me out to the bay, where you had a law enforcement car that was opened up, and the wiring was unbelievable to me. It made sense when I thought about it, but I never imagined so much technology, so much physical infrastructure was necessary for just the common, ordinary things, that actually the extraordinary things that the first responder community has to be able to do.
Yeah, for my vision, you asked about what our mission is. So our mission is always about a partnership. So we build partnerships with our first responder communities to deliver technology solutions for them. As we all know, technology evolves every single day, and to stay on the forefront of that means it's a partnership. Governmental agencies themselves are typically a little lagging behind the latest and greatest, from procurement to budget to how they acquire and want to roll it out. They want stable systems, right? They never usually want to be, the police officers don't want to have the brand new technology that was just released yesterday. They want to know
Right.
that what's in their cars or what they're wearing or the body cam that they have is totally proven and tested out, reliable, rugged solutions. And so when we got in the car building business, that really was the technology that drove us there. I was able to see into the future a little bit that, hey, it's not just a flashing light that's going to go on this patrol car anymore. It really is going to be a mobile office and a mobile technology vehicle. And that's what they are today. All the lights have moved from the old halogens into LED. All the programming of those lights, as you got to see with all the wiring that comes through, it's an electrical system that comes back and is all driven off a computer, and how everything is programmed and the light patterns and what it does. And then we incorporate intelligence, like opening a car door, for instance, and killing lights on one side of the car so it doesn't blind the officer when he comes back.
Mhm.
And with the evolution of LEDs, as an example, it's extremely bright. As you drive down the road, you can see how bright those cars are,
Sure.
as opposed to what they used to be. And now we're even using technology to understand dimming and actually taking the bright LEDs during the day and dimming them naturally at night once the sunset comes in.
Sure.
So those vehicles really are truly a mobile office, and our first responder community sits in those cars from anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day. So we want to make them as comfortable and safe as possible, and then be able to do their job with all the technology
Yeah.
that it takes.
And the reliability is key. Aside from the coolness of the technology, from our very first conversation, I was always inspired is not too strong of a word by who you're partnering with. You're partnering with the first responder community. You're partnering with law enforcement. You're partnering with government agencies and public safety, and I really appreciate that. And I've always gotten the sense that there was a mission element to what you do. So really appreciate the richness of Island Tech's mission and your leadership of it. Let's jump in to really the focus topic for today. You joined Vistage, what, 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago, something like that?
Yep, early this year, yeah.
Yep, my CEO group. And you were very clear that you were looking for a peer advisory group. And just a brief word about what was it that led you to join our Vistage CEO peer advisory group?
Yeah. So one of the things that I found interesting, I've come from executive coaching in the past and doing one-on-one coaching earlier on in my growth, my own personal growth to leading an organization, and having more employees and locations and operations and things, from what we started out with, with 2 and 3 employees to where we've grown it today. The Vistage thing in the peer group model for me was very interesting to get perspective. I think as you lead organizations, as you become a CEO, and people look to you for all the answers, you don't always have those answers, but your peers do, and at least you can collaborate on them. And that's one aspect. And now that I'm part of the Vistage group itself, I think one of the neat key things that Vistage brings is issue processing, and the methodology that you use in processing any kind of issue, whether it's operational, whether it's financial, whether it's in some cases personal, exit strategies. I mean, all the various different things that I just in a very short time see get processed with our groups. Is a very, very unique way, and that peer group feeling and the security of a trusted family, really, that's how I feel when we come to the meetings and the groups and how you're selecting. It's all built on trust. And
Yeah.
for me personally, I mean, as you said, we're first responder oriented. That is the most trustworthy group that you can get, and they rely on each other. So it felt very natural to be in that group. And as you know, I jumped right in right from the beginning.
Yes, no, I was going to say that you jumped right in, which is what I encourage everyone to do, and you totally stepped into that. So since our very first conversations, Bob, you talked about the importance of developing and investing in your leaders. And what I really want to focus on in our remaining time is the Key Executive Peer Advisory Group that I lead. It's a new group of individuals who report directly to the CEO or the owner. And the genesis of that program, or the rationale, really, the value proposition of that program, is that in order to strengthen the person at the top of the organization, namely the CEO or the owner, to really strengthen and grow the company, you really need a great bench. You need strength underneath you to help you do the work. And so Vistage is fundamentally a leadership organization, and the CEOs and owners are the individuals that we serve. And one of the ways we serve them is through programs for all levels of leadership within their respective companies. Walk me through your thought process in sponsoring two of your direct reports at Island Tech into the Vistage Key Executive Program.
Yeah, so the old saying, right? It's lonely at the top. It's very true, and you're only as successful as the people below you. And you know, most organizations themselves, and I'm a firm believer in bottom up. You know, there are definitely some top down decisions that we make, and being strategic in doing those. You know, working at that level, and then taking the feedback from the people underneath. But you want to promote from within. Everybody always talks about that. Oh, we want to promote from within. We want to rise people up to different levels. And organically, when you do that, they don't always have the skill sets that take them from ordinary managers into executives. I think it's just a different mindset. And when I looked out at training alone, I can send my sales director to a sales training program, and he can be taught how to lead lead sales, right? And I can look at my COO and I can say, hey, go take this operations course, right? But at the end of the day, that doesn't give them the same skill set and camaraderie that I found at the CEO level through Vistage. And so when you started that program, I said, you know, I can take some of the initiatives that I take from our trainings and our one-to-ones, and I push it down. Okay, hey, look, this is a new way to do things, but they don't have any perspective or relevance to it because it's what I'm telling them. And then they have to figure it out on their own and go, you know, build a better operational model. Okay, build a better sales model. But my thought was, by investing in the peer groups that you have, that you set up with this key level, they're going to get an opportunity to be with other like peers and to share in the same training, the same speakers, the same material, that puts us all level set. You use that word all the time. We got a level set, right? And so they get level set too. They get the same material, and I just think that collaboration between the top and your executive team, that investment has to be there. And there's really no great places in my estimation to do that through. You know, online learning is exactly that. It's online. There's not a lot of interaction. The personal aspect of getting in a room with your peers to learn, to share stories, to share frustrations, and to build that piece that I got at the CEO level. I want that for my other team leaders.
Yeah. I really appreciate how articulate and clear you are in your own reasoning. You know, a lot of CEOs talk about the importance of investing in their people, and you're doing it in a specific, tangible, and meaningful way. and it's using the same peer model, right? People who are peers to you are not going to be peers to your direct reports. They need their own peer group.
Right.
And the peer model of learning is powerful because peers, they call you on stuff, right? They call us. They challenge. Um, they can relate. They can resonate. Um,
Mm.
so I really appreciate just the clarity with which you've reasoned that through in taking what you've gained through peer learning uh, to your two of your most trusted leaders. Curious, Bob, what are your, at a very high level, without disclosing any confidentiality or anything,
Sure.
what are your objectives for these two individuals as they start the program? What are your objectives for the company, and what are the objectives for you as the CEO having them in this program?
Well, I think so my objective for them is to grow, right, professionally. And I believe it's my job to make sure that people grow. If you want your organization to scale, if you want people to stay within the organization, it goes long past just getting paid and just every 2 weeks, a check being in there. You have to challenge them, and you want to challenge them with the right way. And I think um, we've talked about pressure and support being the key to growing. And you will always have the pressure of the job, especially on an executive level. But you have to have the support of the leadership to go along with it. So for me, I feel that by investing in what we're doing, getting the individuals, the training, and the peer group, diversity is great. I mean, you show up at your peer group. We show up at the CEO summits and the CEO trainings that we do, and there's not two guys that are doing the same thing. And that's great because in the past, people flock together of the same thing, right? Misery flocks together. Like, a bunch of IT guys get together and we talk about what's going wrong in the industry. But now you're in a room full of construction, through service people, through financial people that run different doctors, right? All different businesses, but we all have the same unique challenges, but much different perspective and diversity of our businesses. And we can take away little things. And I really think it's the little things that we take away that have the most positive impact on our businesses.
Sure.
Because when we set too big of goals, we just don't get there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the good thing, it's not only it's women too. The perspective,
Yeah.
age perspective, gender, industry size, industry type, tenure in the role. These are all goals and aspirations. These are all of those things. We've got such a rich mix that diversity of perspectives is how we learn best. Let me wrap up with this question. We talked prior to this interview about this interview being the first in a two-part series. Today's part one. Your two direct reports are about to start this program. And the part two interview that you've agreed to, which I appreciate, will be a year from now, where we'll reflect on what their first year was like, and the benefits and differences and growth that you have seen. What do you want me to ask you about 12 months from now?
Is your job easier?
I like that. I love that.
Yeah, I think kind of tongue in cheek, but that is part of it, right? If your executives are doing, I don't know. I look down at a lot of these big CEOs of these major corporations who don't know the people below them because it's too big, right? And the reason why they're successful is because they trust the people below them to make their job easier. And so for me, I really would love to know that they're truly enjoying being a leader, as I do. I enjoy it. I enjoy not only the strategic piece of executing on something that you want to do, whether it's acquisition, whether it's opening up a new location, whether it's bringing on a new product line, all these different things. We're in a technology piece, so AI is big right now, and we're just keeping our eye on how that applies to our specific industry. And so when those guys come back after spending 12 months in the peer group and you ask me that question, I want to tell you that, you know what? Life was very stressful for them this month. 12 months later, they're enjoying the journey because they now know how to apply the tools that they've been taught, to use some of the speakers, to use some of the material that we've learned, some of the methodology for even issue processing. They can use that with their team members below. And again, we want to peer this down. So whoever's below them, we're always talking about that in our group, right? How do we continue to grow every level of our organization, whether it's executives, mid-level managers, low-tail managers, to get that. So that's what I hope for, Jeff.
Yeah,
I hope they come back and say, has your life been easier and are you having fun?
Great questions. I'll be sure to ask those.
Yeah.
And just really appreciate, Bob, the clarity of your thought, your vision, your strategic orientation. Bob Gronenthal, owner of Island Tech Services, talking about his own experience in the Vistage CEO Group and his commitment to develop his people by enrolling them in the Key Executive Program that's designed for direct reports to really empower their leadership and thus to empower him as the CEO to the benefit of their company. Bob, thank you so much for your time.
Jeff, thank you so much for the opportunity. I always enjoy working with you and looking forward to these results in a year from now.
Me too. Me too.
Thank you.